I hadn't stepped onto that porch in nearly a year. My hands clutched the cake box tighter than I realized, the cardboard softening under my grip. It was lemon lavender, Mom's favorite, at least it used to be. I even piped the frosting myself like she taught me when I was little, back when kitchens were classrooms and not battlegrounds. The sun was low, casting long slats of gold across the front steps. I remember thinking the paint on the trim had held up well, even though everything else about that house felt foreign now. My sneakers made no sound on the path. Maybe that's why my heartbeat sounded like a drum line. When the door opened, I expected a smile, or at least a nod. Instead, Arthur stood there, rigid, cold, like a man looking at a stranger who just rang the wrong bell. "You weren't invited," he said, his voice even, practiced. "We don't need drama today." Before I could speak, before I could blink even, he shut the door. Not gently. It wasn't a maybe another time kind of close. It was deliberate, final, like punctuation after a threat. I stood there frozen, cake still in hand. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined it. Then the door stayed shut, and the hallway light behind the glass faded as someone turned it off. From the side window, I saw movement. Vera. She didn't come out, didn't wave, didn't open the door behind him like some whisper of rebellion. Instead, she gently lifted the curtain, just enough for me to see her eyes. Her voice didn't carry, but the window cracked an inch, and with it came 5 words. "Please, don't ruin this." Not hi, not I'm sorry, just don't ruin this. As if my very presence, my hands holding that cake, was the threat. I didn't even answer. What was there to say to that? That I wasn't the one who set the fire, that the silence had been the kindling all along. I lowered the cake to the porch. My hands were trembling, and for a second, I worried the whole thing would slide out of the box. But I steadied it, placed it neatly, like an offering. Ridiculous, isn't it? Offering something to people who've already decided you're unwelcome. That cake meant more than dessert. It meant I'd tried. I'd forgiven things I hadn't even fully processed yet. I'd driven an hour with that cake in the front seat like a peace treaty with frosting. And now, it sat on the concrete like a dead dove. Children's laughter floated from the backyard. Probably the grandkids, Leora and the others. It was a birthday party after all. I stood there, surrounded by joy I wasn't allowed to touch. I didn't cry. Crying would have felt like giving them something. Instead, I watched the shadows lengthen across the lawn. My legs moved eventually, not hurried, not dragging, just done. And as I walked away, I felt something settle. Not sadness, not yet. Something colder, more ancient. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about today. They'd been preparing to shut me out long before I rang the doorbell. I didn't bother turning on the lights when I got back. The house was already quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't comfort you. It just lets you hear your own thoughts louder. I set my keys down, dropped my bag on the chair, and sat at the kitchen table, still in my shoes. My dinner was there, untouched from earlier. A plate of something microwaved, now cold. It could have been cardboard for all I cared. My phone buzzed. I told myself not to look, but habit won. I tapped the screen and opened Facebook. There it was. Indira had posted an album. A peaceful day with the ones who matter most. The cover photo was of the backyard, balloons, streamers, tables full of food, smiling kids. The kind of photo you'd think belonged to a catalog. Except it was real, and it had my family in it. I flipped through the pictures slowly, my thumb moving like it was dredging mud. There was Arthur, grinning with a plate of ribs. Vera was holding Leora's baby. Even our cousin who hadn't shown up in years was there. Everyone, except me. I wasn't in a single shot, until the last photo. That one stopped me. It was a wide-angle shot. Someone probably took it by accident while stepping outside. In the background, blurred by the fence in motion, was a figure. Cake in hand. Shoulders hunched. Face unclear. It was me. My stomach clenched. I stared at the image until it blurred for a different reason. That was intentional. Maybe not the photo, but the absence. That caption. That was written like a eulogy with a smiley face. And as if on cue, another buzz. A message from Indira. You knew no one wanted you there. Why create a scene? Let's just move forward, please. I dropped the phone on the table. It thudded against the wood, then slid a few inches. Gaslighting. That was the word my therapist used once, a long time ago. I didn't think I'd need to remember it. But there it was, wrapped in faux concern and white teeth. She wanted to erase me, and she was doing it digitally, socially, emotionally, and she almost had. Almost. I stood up, went to the cabinet, pulled down the tin box where I kept old photos. I hadn't opened it in years, but I knew what I was looking for. A picture from 6 years ago. Same backyard, same occasion. Me in the center, laughing, holding a lemon cake. Vera had one arm around me. Arthur's hand was on my shoulder. Indira stood off to the side, smiling with her mouth, not her eyes. That used to be me, center of the frame. Now I was the ghost outside the fence. I turned away from the table and walked to the hallway mirror. A sticky notepad sat on the side table. I wrote a sentence, slow and sharp. They forgot. I always notice what others pretend not to. I stuck it to the mirror, right at eye level, and I smiled, not because I was okay, but because for the first time in a long while, I wasn't waiting for someone else to acknowledge the damage. I didn't intend to drive past the old storefront. My hands just turned the wheel before my mind caught up. It used to be ours, mine and my mother's. We spent weekends repainting walls, choosing flower names for the chalkboard signs, debating over vases like they were sacred artifacts. I remember Vera laughing, her hands stained with green from moss lining, but as I pulled up to the curb, there wasn't a trace of that left. The windows gleamed in a sterile way, too polished, too curated. A new logo scrolled across the glass in soft gold lettering. Indira Floral Co. Her name, not mine. Not ours, and on the door, beneath the hours of operation, a tiny brass plaque read, Established 2022. It wasn't 2022 when we started. I parked but didn't get out, just sat there, watching a customer carry out a bouquet wrapped in ivory paper. Tulips, out of season, overpriced, but always pretty. The kind I used to tell customers were stubborn but worth the effort. I opened my phone. County property records were public. 10 minutes later, there it was. The ownership had officially been transferred to Indira 6 months ago. I wasn't notified. My name wasn't on anything. There was a moment where my throat tightened, like my body knew something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. Then it passed. What replaced it wasn't grief, it was precision. This wasn't sadness anymore. This was theft, dressed up in family wallpaper. Back home, I barely had time to take off my shoes before the phone rang. I almost ignored it. Spam calls had become more regular than conversations, but the name flashing stopped me. Elowen. Her voice crackled like it always had, like it was made of pages from a novel left out in the sun. I heard what happened, she said, no preamble. You were the only one who stayed when your mother couldn't walk. You remember that, right? I do. Good. Because if you let them bury that, they win. Don't let silence rewrite the truth. That was all she said before she hung up. No fuss, no wasted breath, just facts. I sat down and pulled out an old journal, not the kind for poetry, the kind with dates. I wrote down the property transfer filing date, the last time I'd seen the shop keys, the day Vera came home from the hospital, unable to stand, and I carried her down the hall. The scent of antiseptic and lilies that filled the house for weeks. I remembered the night shifts. 2 a.m., sponge baths, refilling prescriptions, rubbing her back while she cried through morphine. I missed job interviews, turned down freelance projects, and canceled 2 out-of-state contracts just to stay by her side. And I never complained. Because that's what you do, right? You take care of your own. Or at least, I thought that's what family meant. Turns out, for some of us, it's a verb. For others, it's a performance. That's when I realized I'd never see that shop again as mine. Not because they took it, but because they never considered it mine to begin with. I flipped to the next blank page, wrote one word at the top in all caps, document. If they were going to treat me like a ghost, I was going to haunt every detail they thought they'd buried. I wasn't angry, I was organized, and if they're going to take everything I built, I'll make sure they can't sleep inside what I designed. The morning air tasted like dust and citrus, sharp, dry, familiar. I walked to the farmer's market out of habit, not hunger. My canvas bag swung lightly at my hip, but I wasn't buying anything. I needed motion, something that resembled normal, something that didn't feel like betrayal. Bryn spotted me before I saw her. Her wave was too energetic for the hour. "Seraphine, you look well," she said, drawing out the well like it carried 10 meanings. Her sunglasses sat low on her nose, her voice sweet with practiced concern. I forced a nod. "Good to see you." She leaned in, lowered her voice like we were about to exchange national secrets. "Heard about the party. Such a shame. Indira told folks you've been not yourself lately. Said it might have been best, for everyone, if you stayed home." She didn't say it to be cruel. That was the worst part. Bryn believed she was offering empathy, not a knife between the ribs. I smiled tightly. "Is that what she said? Well, not in those words, of course, but you know how she worries." Her hand fluttered like she was trying to wave away the weight of what she just said. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I just turned and walked, left my bag with 3 oranges on a bench. Didn't care. I felt like I was walking through syrup the entire way home. Back in the car, I drove in silence. No radio, no podcasts, just the low hum of tires and my thoughts stacking themselves like cold bricks. They weren't just locking me out, they were locking the story shut behind me, and then mailing it to everyone before I had a chance to write my own version. At home, the phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but something in me said to pick it up. "Seraphine?" The voice was dry, rough like sandpaper, but unmistakable. Sable, my father's old friend, the kind of man who always stood half an inch too close at barbecues and spoke in coded language. "I've got 5 minutes before my next meeting," he said, "but I figured you deserved a few truths." I didn't speak. Let the silence invite more. "Arthur told me years ago you were trouble. Not in a criminal way, just difficult. Too smart. Too opinionated. Said if things ever got messy, you wouldn't play nice. Said you'd ask questions the rest of us knew better than to touch." He paused. I let him. "They were always grooming Indira," he added, like he was confessing something heavy. You were the piece that didn't fit. That made you dangerous." I thanked him calmly and ended the call before he could add a closing line to make himself feel noble. My laptop was already open on the kitchen counter. I pulled up the documents folder where I'd saved the property filings, screenshots of posts, message threads. I added a new note. Bryn, community narrative. Then another. Sable, inside strategy. One by one, the puzzle pieces clicked. This wasn't about misunderstandings. This wasn't emotional distance. This was structural. They weren't just erasing me. They were replacing me, making sure no one asked where I'd gone because the version of me they were painting, unstable, overreactive, unpredictable, was more convenient than the woman who kept records. I leaned back, staring at the digital mess of receipts and rage, and whispered, "This isn't just neglect, it's narrative control." Then I opened a new email. Subject line, "We need to talk. Soon. No threats. No explanations. Just a placeholder. A signal." They wouldn't see it as a warning. That was their mistake. 2 days passed before I got a reply. Indira's message landed like a feather dipped in gasoline. "Not sure what you're implying. Hope we can move forward." No apology, no denial. Just that sugary tone she always used when she wanted to sound civil while drawing blood. Arthur didn't respond at all. His silence spoke louder than anything she could have typed. I didn't text back. Instead, I showered, changed into jeans and a plain black sweater, pulled my hair into a low bun, and drove to the bank. The same branch I'd walked into dozens of times before, when I was still the daughter who handled logistics, bills, and deposits for their flower business. A young teller recognized me. Her smile faltered when she saw the look on my face. "How can I help you today, Ms. Hayes?" I handed over my ID. "I need a printed statement from the joint account ending in 7289, last 60 days. She hesitated. "Are you still authorized?" "I opened that account with my mother 15 years ago. Yes, I'm authorized." She left, returned with a manager. The man glanced at the screen, nodded politely, and within minutes, I had the printout in my hands. The charges were routine until one caught my eye. 4 days before the birthday party. Withdrawal. $2,600. Memo. Event floral catering. I stared at the words like they might rearrange themselves into something else. They didn't. My jaw tightened. So that's how deep it went. They hadn't just excluded me. They hadn't just shut the door. They made me foot the bill for it. My hands didn't shake. Not this time. I folded the statement, slid it into my bag, and walked out like I was done shopping for groceries. Back at home, I didn't cry. I lit a candle, one of the eucalyptus ones I keep for migraines, and opened my laptop. I started a new folder. They forgot I document everything. Then I opened a new note. August 3rd, bank withdrawal, $20,600, paid from joint account, see scanned receipt. August 7th, message from Indira, gaslighting tone, see screenshot. August 9th, Bryn gossip at market, verified public narrative. I didn't write emotionally, just dates, facts, names, because people like Arthur and Indira didn't fear confrontation. They feared records, receipts, cold, neutral proof. Later that night, while copying files to a cloud backup, my phone lit up with a message. It was from Leora. Hi, I don't know if I should say this, but I heard Mom and Grandpa planning the video, the edits, the pictures you were left out of. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. I see you. I stared at her message for a long time, then typed back one word. Thank you. It was a crack, but cracks let in light, and I wasn't alone. I leaned back, listening to the hum of the fridge and the occasional car passing outside. They thought keeping me quiet would keep me harmless. They mistook my quiet for weakness. This time, they'll learn I'm the storm. The text came in like a form letter with a personal sting. If you have concerns, let's talk. Everyone will be there Saturday. Indira. No time, no address, no warmth. She might as well have said, report for judgment. But I already knew the place. Same house, same table, same people who sat silent while my name was scrubbed from every surface. Saturday arrived heavy, sky low with gray. I parked at the end of the street so I wouldn't have to see their cars up close. I wasn't there to make an entrance. I was there to make a record. When I walked in, no one spoke. The living room had been rearranged to face the mounted TV. Arthur sat like he was at a board meeting, not his own home. Vera looked at her lap. Indira leaned against the wall like she owned oxygen. The air held something just short of smoke. Arthur cleared his throat. Seraphine, we've all seen your messages. Before things escalate, we thought it best to come together, face to face. Indira nodded. We want transparency. The gall. Without waiting for a cue, she grabbed the remote and clicked play. The screen flickered to life with footage from last year's birthday party, mine. Except this wasn't the real version. It was clipped, sped up, and spliced together to make me look like a lunatic, raising my voice mid-sentence, slamming a cabinet, storming down a hallway. No audio for context, of course. You were volatile, she said flatly. We were worried. That was the story they'd built. I was unhinged, unstable, dangerous even. I pulled my phone from my coat pocket and connected it to the Bluetooth speaker on the shelf without asking. One click. The uncut version played. Same footage, but this time with sound. Indira had told me Vera forgot to order the medication. Arthur refused to go pick it up. I'd raised my voice, yes, but I'd also said, I've been the only one caring for her while you two smile for pictures. If you won't help, at least don't sabotage. The room went still. My voice echoed in full context, painfully clear. Arthur's jaw shifted. Indira's mouth stayed open, no words coming. Vera looked at me for the first time that day. I turned off the video, looked each of them in the eye. I'm not here for forgiveness. I'm not here to be explained to or silenced. I'm here to correct the record. I didn't pace. I didn't shout. I just stated what they already knew. Ownership of the business was changed without my knowledge. My funds were used for a party I was never welcomed at. A campaign was launched to portray me as unstable, including this edited video you were comfortable showing to our own relatives. I paused. This meeting isn't about family. It's about control, and I'm not under yours anymore. I stood, straightened my coat. The folder I'd brought stayed sealed on the coffee table. Let them wonder. And as I walked toward the door, I said calmly, not with rage but with truth, "From this moment forward, we are no longer pretending." I didn't look back. After the meeting, something in me rearranged. Not like a storm, it wasn't dramatic, more like furniture finally pushed into the right corners of a room I hadn't cleaned in years. I started with the back corner of my house, the one I used to use for floral layouts, color boards, ribbon tests. I hadn't touched it in months, but now it had a new purpose. I cleared the table, stacked the files, and set my laptop dead center. My maybe one day space became the war room. No rage, no chaos, just lists, evidence, dates. By Wednesday, I was seated across from a notary downtown, the fluorescent lights buzzing like judgment. "I'd like a handwriting analysis done," I told the legal assistant. "On a will." She didn't flinch, just asked for ID and documents. While she copied them, she glanced up and said, almost offhand, "You're the third daughter I've seen do this month. You're not alone." I didn't expect the lump in my throat. Didn't expect that simple sentence to land where sympathy from my own mother had never reached. Later that afternoon, as I typed follow-up emails at home, a knock came at the door. I peeked through the curtain. Lyora. She stood there like she didn't know whether to smile or run. "I have something," she said, holding out a flash drive. I opened the door and stepped aside. She didn't sit, didn't ask to. I copied everything off Mom's desktop before she left for Tahoe. She may have signed those will papers, but I don't think she ever saw the version filed. Her hands trembled as she set the drive down on the entryway table. I nodded, then walked into the kitchen. "Tea?" I asked. She blinked. "Sure." We didn't talk more than 10 minutes. I didn't ask questions she wasn't ready to answer. But I knew what it meant. Someone inside the castle had handed me a brick. That night, I crafted an email to the family's estate attorney. Subject: clarification requested regarding filed will. I didn't accuse, I inquired, formally, professionally, precisely. Please confirm the storage history of the signature page submitted. Is metadata available? Was the original scanned or digitally signed? Thank you for confirming receipt. All correspondence is now documented. No emotion, just control. As I hit send, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Arthur. His voice was low, clipped. "We need to talk, immediately." 1 week later, I sat across from Arthur in a quiet attorney's office off Main Street. No family photos on the walls here, no pastel throw pillows or curated smiles. Just beige chairs, thick carpeting, and a silence so sharp you could slice bread with it. He leaned forward, eyes narrowed, voice clipped. "What are you trying to prove, Seraphine?" I didn't flinch. I reached into my bag and slid a folder across the table. Inside, printed comparisons of Vera's signatures, the original will, the forged one, and a scanned copy of Leora's thumb drive. Every line, every timestamp, every inconsistency. "I'm not here to prove anything," I said, calm as still water. "I'm here to end this." He didn't open the folder, but his face changed, slowly, like ice cracking underfoot. That was the moment I saw it. The fear of legacy being rewritten, not by a scandal, but by the truth he couldn't contain. After the meeting, Vera caught up with me in the parking lot. She walked slower now, as if the weight of complicity had finally caught up. "Your father thought he was protecting the future," she said softly, eyes not quite meeting mine. I shook my head. Then he should have asked what kind of future I was building. She didn't defend him. She didn't defend herself either. Just reached into her coat and handed me a small box, old and taped at the corners. Inside was her letter, the one I thought she'd never written. Folded neatly, ink faded slightly at the edges. I read it when I got home. "If you ever feel unseen, remember, I was watching. I knew. I was proud. I just wasn't brave. I didn't cry. I just folded it again and placed it in the same drawer where I kept old recipes and my mother's engagement ring." Then I gathered the last stack of papers on my kitchen table, receipts, screenshots, signed affidavits, and slid them into an envelope. No drama, just closure. I drove to my father's office and left the envelope on his desk. On top of it, I placed a single page. I won't sue, I won't fight, but I won't ever forget. And then I walked out, not like someone dismissed, but like someone who had chosen her door. Back at home, I moved a table near the front window, set down a new notepad, fresh pens, and a small nameplate I had custom ordered. Founder, Legacy Florals. It wasn't for them. It wasn't even for me. It was for the work that deserved to outlive the noise, for the belief that creation didn't need permission from anyone but purpose. I poured a cup of tea, watched the light shift through the blinds. My phone buzzed with a notification I didn't check. Maybe it was Arthur. Maybe Indira. Maybe another excuse disguised as peace. I didn't care, because I wasn't cast out. I walked out, and that will always make all the difference.